the introduction to the different forms or formats of communicating research. So as you can imagine, there are, well, before I get into that, this is kind of the normal, typical research timeline. So, and this is more for like academic year research. So typically a student will join a research lab during the academic year, and it takes them at least a quarter, if not 2 quarters, to kind of on-ramp. And then, after 2 quarters, they have enough work that they can publish in our engineering undergraduate research journal, which we published this past June, earlier this month, for the School of Engineering here at UCLA. So, and most campuses have an undergraduate research journal. It's pretty easy to publish in there. It's low stakes. There's no peer review process. Nobody's looking at your work and saying, oh no, this is crap. This is not good enough for our journal, right? There's no snobby editorial board saying it's not good enough. For us here at UCLA Engineering, we publish every undergraduate's research in the research journal. In fact, if those of you who like research this summer and want to continue doing research in the fall, if you continue doing research, I highly, highly recommend you publish your research in our research journal next spring. We publish that journal once a year for the academic year research, and then we also have a journal, obviously, for our summer undergraduate research program. So typically it takes about a year of academic research before students are ready to publish, because there's a lot of on-ramping that happens. And so it takes an undergrad who starts an academic year. By year 2, they get a more advanced project, right? There's no more hand-holding. There's no more graduate student looking over their shoulder, guiding them or leading their project. They're kind of on their own, doing their own research project. Still under the tutelage and guidance of a graduate student or faculty advisor, but working mostly independently. By then, they're ready to publish in other on-campus. So there's a campus-wide undergraduate research week at UCLA, and that happens in May typically. And so students, by year 2, are ready to publish to, outside of the engineering school. And so they start trying, they publish in the, again, the undergraduate research week, and then they might even try and publish off campus, maybe in a student organization, conference, so like if you're an electrical engineer, for example, you would go to the IEEE National Conference and present your research there. Or if you're a computer science engineer, you'd go to the ACM conference, in Dallas, or I don't know, wherever it's going to be this year, and present your research there. And so those are publishing off campus. And again, that usually is by year 2. And then by then, people are starting to get paid. They're like, look, I'm now contributing to the lab. I'm no longer a drain on the lab. I'm an actual asset. I'm pushing the research project forward. I'm publishing now. Can I get paid? And so typically, by year 2, people start getting paid. And then they start saying, you know what? I want to publish in a peer review journal, which is kind of the elite, Mount Everest, the peak of Mount Everest, where it's really hard to publish research in a peer review journal because there is a snobby editorial board that is looking at the work and saying, not good enough. I think you need to fix your, data analysis, or, you need to rewrite this paper. It's not good enough yet. And so there's like typically a 3, 4, 6 month review process by year 3 when you're trying to publish in a peer review journal. And by then, once you're at that level, you're ready to start presenting your research at a national conference, right? So within your area or field. And then by then, for sure, you're getting paid to do research. And by year 3, you probably fallen in love with research and said, this is cool. I love it. I want to continue doing it. I'm going to apply to grad school and get a PhD. So as you can see from our summer research program, we are trying to condense like 3 years of normal academic year work into like a 10-week, 8-week, 10-week summer research program. It's an intense, full-time, because during the academic year, you can really only contribute maybe 6, 8 hours. If you're really committed, 10, 12 hours a week, because you're a full-time student. You're taking classes, you're studying for midterms, you're writing papers, right? So you don't have 40 hours a week during the academic year to commit to research. So that's why this summer research program experience is really important and more intense. And so we're able to provide you a lot of this in one intense summer. So you will be publishing your research in 6 weeks in our summer undergraduate research program engineering journal. So I just wanted to give you kind of what a typical research timeline is and how, condensed and impactful this summer research program experience is. Are there any questions? Nope. Okay, so back to the different formats of communicating research. There are three basic ways, as you can probably guess: oral communication of research, written communication of research, and visual communication of research. And I've already kind of introduced all three, but just to be clear, an oral presentation would be like your elevator pitch, which is a mini presentation, right? It's like a 90-second introduction to your research. So that's a elevator pitch is an oral format, oral way of communicating your research. And then there is a conference presentation where you're like standing next to your poster and people are walking by like they would at a museum. So we call it a gallery walk, where people are just walking around the gallery and then they walk up to your poster and then you do your elevator pitch. You try and get them to be interested in listening to the rest of your poster. Assuming you do a good elevator pitch, then they're like, ooh, cool. That sounds interesting. I actually want to learn more. Tell me more about your research project. And then you actually orally present your poster in front of them and explain the different portions of your poster, and you explain your research project to them. And of course, it's interactive. They get to ask questions, and it becomes a discussion conversation in person. As you're standing next to your poster. So that's another oral way to communicate your research. And then there's like the elite, the pinnacle, like you're at a research conference, you're standing at a podium, you have an audience of, 20, 30, 100, 200 people, and they're all there to listen to you talk about your research. So obviously you have to build up to that, right? So graduate students, PhD students, your faculty, they're doing these types of podium presentations all the time, at least, 5-10 times a year, where they're presenting their research in an oral PowerPoint presentation to the audience. You all will practice all three of these methods in this summer, right? So if you're part of the technical presentation lab, you will be doing an oral kind of, you're not literally standing at a podium, but it's an oral extended PowerPoint presentation. All of you will be doing a video recording of you presenting your poster, doing your elevator pitch, and then presenting your poster. You're going to record yourself in 3-4 minutes video once your poster is completed, and you will upload that and submit that to us so that we have that video, which we're going to then share during the awards ceremony. And of course, you will all be doing your elevator pitch also. So that's oral, okay? Visual is, of course, the poster itself, which is what this workshop's all about. So we'll get into a whole lot more detail about the poster, but basically, in a nutshell, it is a visual story of your research project, right? From beginning to conclusions and next steps, right? There really is no end to a research project. I mean, I guess there is. Once you publish in a peer-reviewed journal, the research project is quote unquote culminated, right? Because that is the pinnacle of the end of a research project, is you get to publish it in a peer-reviewed journal. Your project is obviously not going to, likely 90% not going to lead to that peer-reviewed journal publication this summer. So your poster will be an ongoing kind of, this is how much I was able to complete in an 8-10 week research program. And those posters are published typically at a research conference or a poster symposium, and or in the hallways around Bolter Hall or Engineering 6 building, at schools of engineering. They're found in the halls all the time, so they're published there also. And last but not least is the written communication of research. And this is where the abstract comes in. So there are also research reports. For any UCLA students, if you continue doing research, let's say in fall quarter, you can sign up for an Engineering 199 or an Engineering 99 course, and that is a research course. And the 199 actually requires you, it's a letter grade course, and it requires you to write a research report summary. You turn that into your professor reads it and gives you a grade for it, right? Most of them are A's. If you don't have a good relationship with your professor and he's not clear on what the expectations are and you turn in a bad report, you might get a B, but most people get A's. So there's a research report, and then of course there's a journal article, which all of you have probably been reading. If you're part of our technical presentation lab, then you for sure are reading a journal article that you've been given by the research lab, or that you found through PubMed or Google Scholar. And so those are the three primary ways to the written formats of a research project.